Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Background Information. We're doing a character profile today, and it's one of my favourite monsters that always seems to pop up in almost every Veil story. Is Taliesin Vilmore II. Now I'm going to give you a quote from one of the books he's in, and then I'm going to explain him just a little bit before then giving you as much of his profile as I can. Problem is, he has such an influence around the Vale, if you've listened to the Culture one talking about him being the bogeyman, that you'll realise that if I were to list up all of his relationships and all the people he's connected to, one, it would spoil a couple of things, but two, it would be quite long. So I'm keeping him as trimmed down as I can, and I hope you'll enjoy what you hear. Once again, I apologise for any shifts in audio quality, any clicking you might hear in the background, which is due to the fact that my microphone on the computer crashed and has stopped working completely, so I have to use a headset, and sometimes, for some reason, the headset picks up the actual sounds of the computer in the background as an annoying ticking, clicking sound. So if you do hear that, I apologise. Anyway, let's get back to it. Dear me, one could hardly recognise the humble orphanage in this level of mess. The figure's boot had squelched against some piece of gore that was particularly unpleasant, and gave a sudden grimace of displeasure before lifting his neat and expensive boot to wipe against a coat still hanging from the racks on the wall. Once done, the being gave a soft sigh of frustration before he strolled over the trembling form of the hybrid with the softest smile upon his face, looking hardly like the kind of gentleman to cause trouble or anything else. However, Declan knew when he was looking at the Count, and he was much more aware of the rumours and the truth of this horrendous and terribly twisted individual, rejected more violently from vampire society than the hybrids and the turn, and for good reason. Declan stared up at him with horror, and a whimpering sound that was almost like a child about to scream for its mother, as Taliesin stood towering above him with a gentle sigh of depression. What's this on the floor? Ah, my poor little Declan. For years you've been the biggest thorn in my side, slaughtering the people I sent to deal with your dear Roman, and now look at you. Well, you probably can sense what's happened to Roman too, and the rest. Curiously, that half-she has been rather more useful to me than I could have imagined. Here I was, tricking him into beating you guys up just to wear down his anger whilst I use him as a blood bank. Quite frankly, I've got everything I could need wrapped in one muscular package, and even when I've drained every last drop, it will only aid me all the more. Do you know why? Say a quote from Changeling Heart, which I will put the link to where you can buy that on Amazon in the description, because I like Taliesin in that story. I have so much fun with him in that. But that's kind of the problem. That was a big quote, like half a page in the book. But I had to showcase Taliesin as he is. In fact, whenever I read Changeling Heart, I tend to skip through for each moment Count Taliesin Vilmore the second turns up. I have a real bias over how much I enjoy this character, how much he steals the show, but also how much I hate him, too. You've probably realised, too, from the picture I drew of him, though sorry it's a lion and not human, that he really is the most expressive, flamboyant, and yet wicked being in the Vale. If you watched the Culture video from last month, or heard the audio about the bogeyman of the Vale, then you know a lot about Taliesin's history already. So for his history after becoming the Count, refer to that. This profile I will only actually go as far as his appearance in Foundations of Blood. In fact, if you get to read Changeling Heart, or indeed any of the other Beyond the Veil stories I'll be producing or have uploaded parts to on Patreon, you'll see a very different Taliesin to the one in the Viper Clan, though he inevitably starts to erode from Book 11, Snake Amongst the Roses, greatly. Though we've got a while before we get there. Even so, enjoy what little information I dare to release on this wicked wretch. Name, Taliesin Vilmore II. Position, last count of the Vilmore English nobility. Story featured in Foundations of Blood, also antagonist of Changeling Heart, and features in most Viper Clan stories. Role, tertiary protagonist. Gender, male. Description, tall, lean, androgynous with long fingers, pale skin, golden eyes, black hair, though he later adds golden highlights and streaks to it. Sharp fangs. His hair has varied but mostly stays shoulder length. He always dresses neatly or up to the latest fashion, and has a reputation for being a little flamboyant. Realm, the Veil. Abilities, debatable, though he has the usual vampire power of controlling with pheromones, hypnotising, transformation, immortality, and various other things, but he has a greater strength than vampires should have, more resistance to sunlight than he lets people see, and something much more terrible that is only whispered about. Master himself. Personality, cynical but self-hating, obsessive, charismatic, vague at times but certainly sarcastic, cunning, a great trickster. It's hard to tell if he's ever telling the truth. He's very seductive, can read people well enough, exceptionally manipulative, and rather manic if not psychotic at times, with a wicked temper and a sadistic streak. He doesn't know love or cares about such things. The only sense of family and appreciation he has is for the Viper clan, but it only goes so far. Relations. Grandson of Alistair Vilmore, who knew he would be the one to succeed in the end. Son of Taliesin Vilmore the first, and they both hated each other. Elder brother of Reginald and Nigella, whom he hated. Elder half-brother of Edwin and Barnaby, whom he had no feelings for. Half-brother of Theodulus, who is the only person he's ever given a care about. And of course, uncle of Tybalt Viper, whom he trusts and distrusts greatly. History. It's horrible, and I keep it only up to Foundation's blood. Born to a father who was slowly wiping out his own siblings to take control and poisoning his own father, Taliesin's father was frustrated that his son had his mother's black hair and his mother's beauty and looked fragile, but mostly he hated that his rare amber eyes had not been inherited. All the same, Taliesin learned early on that his mother hated him and was doing her best to keep away from him. He rarely knew her, and instead was left to be raised by his father's male pet, the only one that showed him compassion, Burford the werewolf, who was used to beat him, and his violent father. When his father became count, suddenly there was so much expectation placed upon Taliesin that he found himself being beaten regularly, especially by Burford. But it did something that was truly bad. But if he did something that was truly bad, his father would beat him. He was also forced to eat cooked demon meat, all part of his father's attempt to make his son stronger, and all it did was make Taliesin more resentful while slowly breaking away his inhibitions. Eating the meat forced Taliesin to show his abilities before puberty, and thanks to that, his father stopped pulling his punches and was incredibly violent with him, purely on the idea to make him stronger. When Taliesin's mother was pregnant with the twins, Taliesin realised his life was in danger should a better-looking boy be born, and already hating his mother for never once even protecting him, Taliesin dared to trip her down the stairs. It failed to kill the youngsters, but almost had him killed by Burford. Then, when they were born, his father beat him the worst in his life, smashing him hard enough into a wall that his jaw shattered, as he was informed that he was now expendable. This stoked utter hatred for Reginald, and yet for Nigella he gave more affection towards, but when he learnt that she and Reginald were drinking demon blood, not eating the mead, he knew that in the end he would always be the only heir. However, early on, Taliesin realised that he was not straight, as his father would prefer, and when he wanted to kiss a pretty boy that came to their household, his father forced Taliesin to kill the boy and drink his blood. Things only got worse as Taliesin was dragged to noble circle meetings and pushed towards the girls. He only enjoyed tormenting them and chasing them around, which his father accepted, but anyone that showed interest he would manipulate to do nasty tricks to others or say mean things to, letting them get hurt but then stroking their hair or saying despite it they were pretty, and he learnt how to control others. His life took a change for the better when during one of these meetings he met Herman, who was older but he was instantly attracted to. The pair would meet up and play, Herman's father seeing them as friends and then noticing the way their relationship developed. However, very early on, Taliesin's father noticed and Taliesin was forbidden from being around Herman, but this was the first time he rebelled against his father. He went through a calmer, better period in making friendship with Herman, and soon the pair were as in love as it was possible for Taliesin to be. However, they were always stopped from being together, and eventually when Herman was even beaten in front of him by his father for daring to give Taliesin a birthday present at the meetings, Taliesin's brain seemed to twist at last, and all goodness was taken from him. He started to act out so completely and heinously, blackmailing others into depravity and doing his best to gain a bad reputation to upset his father. Though Herman sent letters begging him to run away with him, Taliesin found himself with a different goal in mind. Do whatever he could, make allies with demons, and upset his father so much that when he finally killed the bastard, he would be a monster even more powerful than he could ever be. And things took an interesting turn when he met Theodulus, the only person at that point to crack the shell around his heart, and Taliesin fell in love with him, until he found out who he was. But then it gave him an opportunity he could only dream of. Final comments. I would say listen to the audiophile video of Bogeyman of the Vale for more information that you can enjoy. And I hope you found that interesting. I really hope you do. I wish I understood why Taliesin was the easiest one to draw. Maybe it's his expressions. I've actually drawn him a couple of times as a lion, and he has some really funny expressions in that. Still, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye.